Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video and welcome back to another album review video. I know I haven't put one of these out in quite some time. I think the last one I put out was the album review for One More Light. And of course that was before the death of Chester Bennington, frontman of Linkin Park. But I've decided that I want to go through the entire Linkin Park discography in terms of album reviews before I move on to anything else. Because Linkin Park is and has been my favorite band of all time for such a long time now that I feel like I owe this to them to kind of just like provide my takes on their various albums. I may or may not include the remix albums and whatnot. We'll see when the time comes. But I feel like I owe this to them to at least do this before I move on to another album, you know, of a different band or anything of that sort. So that's what we're doing in terms of these album reviews in the future. I don't have a set schedule in mind for when these are going to be coming out. Of course, they will be coming out at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on any given day. I just don't know what days they will come out. I don't have anything really set in stone for that. So just keep your eye out, you know, on the channel. Because they may or may not come out, you know, in bunches or spread out over time, so we'll see. But today we're starting with the beginning of Linkin Park's discography, their first album, Hybrid Theory. I wouldn't say their most popular album. I would, well, I don't really know how to really judge that because there are multiple factors that go into determining the popularity of an album, but I would say Meteora is probably their more popular album. But regardless, one of their more popular albums, really hailed by a lot of people as their greatest album, you know, truly who Linkin Park is. I kind of disagree with that, but I'll get into it, I guess, in a little while here. Now, if you guys watched my ranking Linkin Park's albums from worst to best video, which I posted, I believe, a few months ago. If I remember, I'll put a link down to it in the description box down below, or there will be a card on the screen, or both. I don't know what I'm gonna do. If you guys watched that video, you know that I put Hybrid Theory at number 5 out of 7. So in my opinion, it was the 5th best album that Linkin Park put out, which means it's in the lower half of the albums for me. And that is an extremely unpopular opinion, I would say, because, you know, like, as I described before, it's hailed as one of those albums that is so, you know, fantastic, you know, by people, you know, and, like, having that just in that position and not at, like, number 2 or number 1 is an extremely unpopular opinion. But it's at number 5 for me, and in this review video, we're going to dive more in depth into it and really see why that is, you know, why is that album ranked there for me? Why do I not like it as much as, you know, something like Meteora, One More Light, 1,000 Suns, or Minutes to Midnight, which were the albums that were ranked higher than this album. We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Starting now, basically. So, the album for me is great. I really like the album. I like every Linkin Park album. The ranking so much itself is not something that you should really take into consideration as much as my personal thoughts on each and every album, because I like every Linkin Park album. Again, they are my favorite band of all time, so I liked everything they've put out, including that Recharged remix album that they put out that was very polarizing, even more so than their newest album. But like, I enjoyed this album greatly. The biggest problem I have with it, though, and this is really why this album is not like number 1 or number 2 or even like number 3 for me, is because I feel like it wasn't well produced. I feel like the sound mixing was not as great as it could be on this album. And a lot of people would fight me over that, because some would argue that the sound mixing and the production of this album are what made it so good in the first place. And I can see that point of view and I can understand that. But if you listen to Hybrid Theory and you listen to Meteora, they have a lot of similarities, not only in the genre of music that is being produced, but in just like the formula that is used to produce every song, in the sense of, I don't know the exact terminology. I'm not very musically inclined, but I'm trying to put out this album review anyway. It's like like that standard formula, almost like, some verses, chorus, some verses, chorus, bridge, chorus, and then after chorus. Like that kind of formula that is common in a lot of songs, but especially prevalent in these first two albums. Yeah, and I'm just using this as a comparison that, Hybrid Theory and Meteora are very similar. But what makes Meteora my favorite Linkin Park album is because I feel like it is much better produced than Hybrid Theory. And if you look at the two, essentially you could call them the same album, except they're not. They're different songs, but it's almost like Meteora is Hybrid Theory 2. Except it's better. It's better produced. Oh, that was terrible phrasing. Excuse me. It was produced in a better manner. The sound mixing sounds better to me. The vocals sound better to me. And it's their second album, so they learned a lot from, recording and producing that first album. So I imagine that is why the production and whatnot sounds better to me. But with Hybrid Theory, the reason why I think the production and the sound mixing isn't as good as it could be is that you have, like, let's take, what's a good song? Let's take By Myself, right? And you have Mike's rapping, or I guess if you want to call it that, Mike's rapping, and like right after that, right after all the, I guess you would call it like maybe a pre-chorus before you dive into that first set of verses with Mike's rapping. There isn't a whole lot going on in the background because it's intended for you to focus on Mike's rapping, but just the noises that are going on in the background. I understand that some people like that, and some people think that that is a sign and is very indicative of good production. And I understand the effect they're going for, but that just does not sit well with me. It just sounds so weird to me. Listen to By Myself and you'll understand what I'm talking about. And listen to the background noise behind Mike's rapping. It's like this weird synth or something that they've got going on. Almost like it reminds me a lot of 80s synth. Oh my god, I can't say that word. Except it's different from that too. Just listen to it and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Excuse me while I get a drink of water. But if you listen to that, and you listen to, let's see, it's another song that has something similar to that. With You, potentially. I like that song more than By Myself, so maybe that's not the best example. Runaway is another good example of just like these weird sounds, which is really what Linkin Park uses a lot in all of their albums, are these weird sounds to, come together and make this, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but these weird sounds come together that by themselves maybe aren't so great, but they come together and they form this great song, whatever, because that's what Linkin Park does. But in some of these songs in Hybrid Theory, it just doesn't sound good to me. That's really the best way I can describe it. They have these weird sounds going on, that maybe they use for background noise while Chester or Mike are doing their thing, or they have them maybe used even as background music or noise during the choruses when there's a lot of instrumentation going on. It kind of turns me off for a couple of their songs. Really, By Myself and Runaway are the main ones for that. Sorry, my throat is really, really sore at the moment. I'm trying to talk through it. But that's really what turns me off a lot about those songs, is those weird sounds that just I don't want to use the word uncomfortable, because it makes it seem like worse than it actually is. It's just they don't do it for me. They don't, provide that effect that they're going for. And that is really what kind of like puts Hybrid Theory where it is among the rest of the albums for me, is just those weird sounds that make the album itself sound like it's underproduced and not produced well enough. Whereas you have Meteora, where those weird sounds just sound more refined, is I guess the best way to put it. They just sound more refined. They sound like they were just better produced. I can't describe it in a different manner. I don't have enough music knowledge to really describe it in a different manner. I'm just going based off of someone who is an avid listener of Linkin Park music. I'm just trying to describe it in that manner, and I can't describe it in like a musically inclined manner. So I apologize for that. It's just like, really, I don't have any other way to explain it. I just think that Meteora is essentially Hybrid Theory, but better produced. Just listen to the two albums and get back to me on that, and see if you notice what I'm talking about. If you don't, I understand, because I'm not doing a great job of explaining this. But if you do notice what I'm talking about, then essentially, I guess my point is made. And whether or not you like those weird sounds that are in Hybrid Theory or not is completely subjective, which is why some people herald Hybrid Theory as the greatest Linkin Park album or one of their best, And yeah, I mean, that's really what does it for me for Hybrid Theory, and why I rank it where I rank it. There are quite a few songs in there that I really enjoy. One Step Closer I enjoy. In the End. What's another one? I don't know why I'm struggling with the song names right now. I listen to songs off of that album almost every day. I like A Place for My Head. That has some weird sounds in it that sound more refined, like something that maybe would be off of Meteora rather than Hybrid Theory. I like Cure for the Itch, which is the instrumental song with Mr. Hahn going crazy on the with the turntables and whatnot, to some degree. He does that more so in Session, which is off of Meteora. I like Forgotten, which in my opinion is like, the way I see it is that By Myself is a poor man's Forgotten. That's just my 2 cents on that. And I mean, there are a couple songs on there I'm indifferent about, like With You, Pushing Me Away, Crawling, I'm kind of indifferent about. I understand that a lot of people like that song. It just doesn't, I don't hate it. I love essentially every Linkin Park song. It just doesn't do what One Step Closer or In the End does for me. And did I talk about every song? Paper Cut is a song I don't like, actually. But that isn't because it's not as well produced. It's just because I don't like really how it sounds at all. I especially don't like the chorus. That's the worst part of the song for me. I understand Mike is singing there, but I really feel like it would have sounded better if Chester was doing the chorus, because it doesn't sound good, at all. To me, I again, this is one of those things where I don't really know how to describe it all that well. With that song in particular, the chorus especially, man, I just can't get behind it. And I mean, Mike's rapping while it's fast and it's kind of explosive in that way also doesn't really do it for me. It's if I was going to show somebody who knew no Linkin Park songs whatsoever, I would not pick that song to show them. If I was going to make them a playlist of Linkin Park songs from every album to listen to so that they could get into Linkin Park, I would not put that song on there. I would never consider putting that song on there because it's just, it poorly represents, in my opinion, how great Linkin Park is. You know, it has a mix of everything that Linkin Park does in every one of their albums. You know, Mike raps, Mike sings, Chester sings on there. You know, there's rock elements, there's hip hop elements, there's I would even maybe suggest some electronic elements in it. But I feel like it's one of those songs where it has all of those things going for it that would typically make a great Linkin Park song. It has all of those things going for it, but it just does not sound great, you know, in my opinion. So that's just my take on Paper Cut. Not necessarily because it's not well produced, just because I just don't like the song itself. You know, with songs like By Myself and Runaway, where in my opinion, they're not very well produced songs. It's not because I think the songs themselves are bad, like I do with Paper Cut. It's because I just don't think that they are well produced. I think if the sounds in those songs were more refined, they would be great songs. That's what I'm getting at with those songs. With Paper Cut, I just don't think it's a good song itself. So that's my take on that. And as such, we are going to get to the rating for the album. If you guys are unaware, I rate every album on a scale of 1 to 10. For One More Light, I gave that album a 9.5, which may seem like it's a very good rating, like a very high rating, like I thought the album was nearly perfect. But for my scale and how I rate these albums, I do it based on how many songs out of the entire album I liked. You know, so if I sort of liked a song, you know, if I'm indifferent about a song, no, not indifferent, if like, we'll take By Myself and Runaway, because we've been using those as really the prime examples here. If I feel like those songs could have been great if they were produced in a better manner, I would, you know, maybe dock half a point off of the score. You know, I wouldn't dock a full point. Whereas with Paper Cut, I just don't like the song in general. I would dock a full point. As such, you can maybe kind of interpret the score based off of that. If there were 10 songs on the album, it would receive an 8. But since it's a 12-song album, I believe, I'm not doing it based on the deluxe version of the album or anything. So we're not including My December or High Voltage into this. Although I like those two songs, for clarification. Since this album is going to get docked 2 points, because I don't like Paper Cut, and I think By Myself and Runaway could have been better produced. So we're going to dock 2 points off of that. And I calculated on that 1 to 10 scale, but since there are 12 songs, it would be a 10 out of 12. Which, if I pull up a calculator here, I am so professional and so prepared for this. We're going to do 10 divided by 12 on Google's calculator. And that is essentially an 8.3. We're going to round that to an 8 out of 10, which, I mean, we're docking 2 points. That's essentially what it would have been anyway. I mean, but I feel safer about making my ratings with the calculator there and everything. So I give Hybrid Theory an 8 out of 10. You know, Paper Cut, again, did not like it. Runaway and By Myself, I feel like they could have been, you know, produced in a better manner that would have made me really enjoy the songs. So, yeah, if you guys have your opinions on Hybrid Theory or my ratings and rankings and whatnot, let me know down in the comment section below. If you want to see that ranking Linkin Park albums from worst to best video, the link should be in the description box down below, excuse me, or on a card that appears on screen, or both, or neither. You know, I may forget, I don't know. If you want to see that, you can either look in those places or go onto my channel and do a little search on there. and you'll be able to find it. I rank all the Linkin Park albums. I don't go as in-depth with each album as I did here and with One More Light, but I did rank them, in one cohesive format so that you can just get my idea of where the Linkin Park albums rank in my head, so you can use that for reference for these future Linkin Park album review videos. So there we go. That's it for this Hybrid Theory album review video. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm going to be putting out album review videos for every Linkin Park album. One More Light and Hybrid Theory are covered. Next up will be Meteora. We're just going to go down the line until we reach One More Light, and then we may come back and do the remix albums. That is yet to be determined. So, of course, after Meteora, it would be Minutes to Midnight, 1,000 Suns, Living Things, and The Hunting Party. And then we would decide at that point if we wanted to do the remix albums or not. So tune in, make sure you're subscribed to the channel to look out for those. Regardless of the day they go up on, they will be going up at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look out for those at that time period. Hit the little bell if you want to get notified for videos I put out. I do gaming videos typically, but if you want to be notified for when these album review videos are coming out, that will do that for you. You will get notified of my gaming videos, and maybe you should check those out as well. I play a lot of games on the channel right now. I'm playing The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth. By this point, it'll be Serious Sam 3, I think, with The Game Train. Check him out as well. And Kingdoms and Castles. So check out those series, check out those videos. Maybe you'll like the gaming content too. Who knows? And I've been considering for a little while possibly moving over the review content to separate channels away from my gaming content, but that's something I've just been thinking about. It's not necessarily something I'm going to go through with. It's just something for consideration. But if you have an opinion on that, let me know down in the comment section below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and let me know if you disagree with anything I said, because I read and reply to as many comments as I can. I don't get a whole lot. I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't have a whole lot of subscribers here. The community is not very big, but you could be a part of the growing of our community here. Maybe help me get off my feet by subscribing and sticking around for future content. So there we go. That's it for this video. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you later.